It's official. The Lakers have traded for Anthony Davis. So what did they do next? Well, in this video, I'm going to explain to you why the Lakers and the Pelicans both came out as winners and what the Lakers should do next. Stick around. Welcome back to Journey of a Ballaholic. As always, General Hannibal X here to bring you the latest NBA and college basketball news. Well, there you have it. Anthony Davis is a Los Angeles Laker. My mind is blown. My mind is blown. I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't know when, and I didn't know the details. But Anthony Davis is an LA Laker. Let's break down the trade. The Lakers will receive Anthony Davis, while the New Orleans Pelicans receive Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, the number 4 pick in the 2019 draft, and 2 future first-round picks. First of all, let's start here. Let's start with the Pelicans. The Pelicans, they made out. The Pelicans got a great deal. When you start thinking about what the Pelicans actually received, go back and look at the last video I did. We talked about how special Lonzo Ball can be, how special Brandon Ingram can be. Those things haven't changed. Those guys have unique talents, unique God-given abilities, the skill that they've worked on and crafted so much to where they were worthy to be traded for a bona fide superstar in Anthony Davis. Zion Williamson is who they're building around. Okay, he is their main prized possession for this team. They're going to put the right pieces around him to try to form a playoff contender. Lonzo Ball, that past first point guard, a defensive point guard. And I think one thing that's really gone kind of unnoticed is the fact that Lonzo Ball, as well as Jrue Holiday, could form one of the best defensive backcourts in the entire NBA. Listen to me. When you can put pressure on the ball like Lonzo Ball and Jrue Holiday can, that's going to be a special defensive backcourt, if nothing else from the offense, which we know Jrue Holiday can score the ball. Then you put Brandon Ingram on the wing. His ability with his long wingspan, his ability to move his feet, that's going to give them a lot of versatility. Zion Williamson at that other forward spot, with his athletic ability, listen, these young guys right here, these young guys are going to be a problem in the NBA in a couple years. They've got a great coach. Alvin Gentry is a really good coach. But the GM, David Griffin, you've got to give him credit. You have to give David Griffin credit for the haul that he brought in, because those picks that he's getting from the Lakers are going to be very, very valuable. He got the fourth pick in this upcoming draft, which is still a hot commodity. And I think from the reports that I've heard, they're actually shopping that pick to try to see if they can turn it into something else. But let's just say they keep the 4th pick. You're picking up a very valuable asset. Somebody who can come in to either be a bench player to come in behind Lonzo Ball or Jrue Holiday or Brandon Ingram or Zion. Or you could trade that to get somebody maybe to fill out at that center spot. But they have options there. Those future first-round picks, very important as well. In the NBA, the way that the new CBA is set up, you can't trade back-to-back first-round picks. So next year, 2020, the Lakers will still have their first-round pick. But 2021 is where that pick could go to the New Orleans Pelicans from the Lakers, but it's top 8 protected, okay? If that pick does not transfer to a 9th or higher pick, and it is top 8, the Lakers would get that pick, and then the Pelicans would receive the 2022 pick from the Lakers, and it would be unprotected. Then they also have a pick swap in there as well. The pick swap is basically saying for 2023, 2025, where the Pelicans would have that option to be able to turn to the Lakers and say, you have a better pick than us. We're not going to switch spots with you and we'll take your pick. So they have some options there. So it's a really good haul that David Griffin was able to receive for this a superstar like Anthony Davis. But with all that said, as great of a move as it was for the Pelicans, and I think it was genuinely a great trade for the Pelicans, they won this deal, but so did the Lakers. The Lakers added Anthony Davis. Listen, if you're watching this show right now, you know who Anthony Davis is. And for those that don't, let me just say this. He is the best big man in the entire NBA. This man, put like this. There were 5 players, okay? 5 players over the last 6 years that made an all-star appearance in each one of those seasons. Only 5. The Lakers now have 2 of those 5 players in LeBron James and Anthony Davis. That's how special he is. And when you add a player who's as versatile as Anthony Davis is to LeBron James, you're adding a bona fide superstar to another bona fide superstar, giving the Lakers the best 1-2 punch in the league, bar none. You gotta remember, Kevin Durant's gonna be out even most, if not all of next year. Klay Thompson, he's gonna be injured for most of next year. Just imagine this for a second, people. Imagine this. Imagine LeBron James at the top of the key and Anthony Davis gets that call from LeBron to come set a pick, and they run a pick and roll with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. LeBron James comes off that pick. Anthony Davis sets that screen, rolls hard to the basket, puts that hand up. LeBron James, who's a willing passer, drops a dime right over top of the defensive head. I've been listening to so many people who are questioning, truly, even Laker fans. I've heard so many Laker fans, and of course the Laker haters are going to say what they say, but we're not worried about them. I've heard Laker fans questioning this move. I've heard people say the Lakers gave up too much. The Pelicans, they wiped them clean. Come on, people. I'm gonna break something down to you, okay? I'm gonna break something down to you. Let's just calm down for 1 second. I know I'm a little excited. I'm a little excited, but today's a major day for us. This is a major day. Let's look at what the Lakers got. Not only what the Lakers got, as we know how great Anthony Davis is, look at what the Lakers kept. Let's remember, they traded away Lonzo, traded away Ingram. They traded away Josh Hart. All 3 of those guys I loved. I told you, I just made a video to tell you how important those guys could have been to the Lakers next year. Their talent is undeniable. They traded away the 4th pick. But the one guy they didn't trade away, the one guy they told the Pelicans, he's off limits, we will not give you him, is Kyle Kuzma. Remember, I just told you in the last video, Kyle Kuzma was probably the best fit alongside LeBron. He doesn't need the ball in his hand. But when he has the ball in his hand, he's a problem. He's a bona fide bucket. This is a guy who came in as a rookie, late first round draft pick, averaging 16. Then you add a LeBron James, a star, and most time when you add a star to a player, their stats kind of, the shot attempts go down. They kind of have to take a step back to allow LeBron James to put up the numbers that he's going to put up. That's what most second options have done consistently when LeBron James joins their team. Not Kyle Kuzma. He went from 16 points a game up to 18 plus points a game. This is a man whose field goal percentage went up because he can play off of LeBron, right? So now we're in a situation where you've got LeBron James, you've got Anthony Davis, and you've got Kyle Kuzma. Am I missing something? Maybe I must be missing something. Maybe I'm missing something here. Kyle Kuzma is not a star. I'm not even going to try to stretch this to make it seem that he is more than what he truly is. He is a solid NBA starter that has all-star potential, but he's not a star. I'm not even trying to go there. This isn't like the Miami Heat Big Three where Wade, LeBron, and Bosh got together. I'm not saying he's equivalent as that third option to a Chris Bosh. I'm not saying that. But you don't need him to be an all-star. He doesn't need to be a bona fide superstar. He doesn't need to be that. He is what he is. And what he is a perfect fit alongside 2 dominant scorers, 2 guys who can give you 27, 28 points a game. You combine with the amount of points LeBron James and Anthony Davis averaged last year, it's the highest combined point total since Kobe and Shaq. This is an elite 1-2 punch. Does anybody remember who the third option was on those Kobe Shaq teams? You don't have to have a third bona fide star. And that's what Kuzma's not. But what Kuzma is, he's a bucket. This man put up 41 points in just 3 quarters against the Detroit Pistons just last year. This is a guy who's, mind you, only in his 2nd year. So he's only going to continue to get better. And you're putting better players around him. Kyle Kuzma has that potential to be the third option on a championship team, without question. All right, so let's go ahead and break down exactly what the options are for the Lakers. And I'm gonna give you a couple different scenarios, okay? The Lakers have truly two paths that they can take to improve their team so that on paper, we're only talking on paper, they could actually be the NBA title favorites heading into next season, okay? There's two paths. Path number one is chase a max star. These are the Kawhi Leonards, the Jimmy Butlers, the Kyrie Irvings, the Kemba Walkers. That's those guys. Those guys' contracts are going to start at $32.7 million or up. And the reason I say or up is because a guy like Kevin Durant, who's played in the league for 10 plus years, his contract is actually at a higher level, around $38 million. Lakers don't have that kind of space. There's no way that they can create that amount of cap space. However, they do have the ability to create the cap space for a Kawhi Leonard or Kyrie Irving, Jimmy Butler, or Kemba Walker. Now, even though we're going through this hypothetical scenario, we have to be realistic here, okay? I don't like playing fantasy basketball or having those conversations with the people that like to play fantasy basketball, and they want to say, well, let's sign Jimmy Butler and Kyrie Irving. Well, the Lakers, dude, you can't do that. Yes, we could talk about how players could take pay cuts, because we've seen players take pay cuts. When LeBron James and Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade got together, all of them took a pay cut. They all sacrificed financially to join each other so that they could win a championship. And it worked. They won back-to-back championships. But they didn't take a 50% pay cut. The Lakers are projected to have around roughly $32 million, $32.5 million to be able to sign best case scenario. And I'm going to go through all the different scenarios for you as well. Best case scenario. Now, in order to get to that best case scenario, the Lakers need the Pelicans to play ball a little bit. Now, it's my hope as a Laker fan that the Pelicans, in taking all of those future assets, those future draft picks, agree to some type of a deal where they told the Lakers, listen, we're going to wait on this to make this trade official. The earliest date that the trade can be made official is July 6th. We all know that. However, the Lakers, what they want to do is they want to work as a team that's over the cap. That's what it's called, okay? And in order to do that, they have to sign that number 4 draft pick. The draft is on June the 20th. You can't sign that player until June the 30th. So the earliest they could sign the number 4 draft pick will be June 30th, and then you have to wait 30 days after that player has been signed before you can trade. So the earliest that the Lakers will be able to make that trade will be July 30th, officially, okay? But once again, the Lakers would need the Pelicans to play ball. The Pelicans have to agree to that. Now, there's reports out there from Adrian Wojnarowski that the Pelicans may not be willing to play ball because they may be looking to move that pick. So if they move that pick to someone else, you can't guarantee what that team's going to do with their asset now. So that's not an agreement that the third team would have had with the Lakers. So if the Lakers and the Pelicans can't come to an agreement, then the earliest that that player, Anthony Davis, could be signed or the trade could be made official would be July the 6th. Let's look at that scenario. Okay. July the 6th. If the trade is made official on July the 6th, that means the Lakers no longer have $32.5 million. That means the Lakers' salary cap actually jumps down to a point where they no longer can afford to pay a max free agent maximum level money. Now, once again, it doesn't mean that they can't get a max player. What it means is they cannot pay a max player max dollars. So let's look at the worst case scenario for the Lakers. Worst case scenario would be the trade is made official on July the 6th. Anthony Davis decides to say, you know what? I'm not giving up one penny of my money. $4 million is $4 million. I don't care how much money you have made. I don't care how wealthy, how rich you are. $4 million is $4 million. If he decides to say, I want all of my money, the Lakers have to give him that. And that would leave the Lakers with only $23.7 million left available to go after free agents. Now, we would hope we would hope as Laker fans that Anthony Davis would be willing to give up that trade kicker so that we could use that money to be able to sign a player. But we're going to operate under the worst case scenario so that we can see what the options truly are for the Lakers. So let's say Anthony Davis doesn't waive that kicker. Let's say the Lakers trade is made official on July the 6th. Now the Lakers, sitting at $23.7 million, have to then figure out how to build a roster using that cap space. So let's look at who's currently on the roster. You've got LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kyle Kuzma. Very solid start of a three-man core. You also have Mo Wagner and Isaac Bonga. Well, Wagner and Bonga more or less bench players. I'm not even going to classify them as role players. They're bench players at this point of their career. So those, we're going to call those the 11th and the 12th and the 11th man. So that means you've got to find 4 through 10. Now, if you're trying to construct a roster, you're looking at Anthony Davis. We can go ahead and slot him in at that center position. LeBron James, we're going to slot him and Kyle Kuzma at those forward positions. They're kind of interchangeable. All these guys are pretty much interchangeable. But we're going to slot them in at those positions. That means you got a big hole at your guard spot. Your backcourt is empty at this point. Remember, you traded away Lonzo. You traded away Josh Hart, even Brandon Ingram. So now the Lakers have to go out there and find a point guard. You've got to find a shooting guard. How do you do that? Well, you have to look at who's an unrestricted free agent. How about Patrick Beverley? Patrick Beverley, to me, is probably the most ideal point guard the Lakers should go after this summer. So let's just say from that $4.7 million that he made last year, let's give him a raise. I think he's due. Let's double that. Let's say $9 million. Rajon Rondo last year signed a one-year deal with the Lakers for $9 million. Let's slot Patrick Beverley in at $9 million. So let's say we go to, how about this name for you? How about a JJ Redick? Would JJ Redick work for you? JJ made about $12 million last year. I think he's due for a raise. What if we sign JJ Redick for $14.7 million? I mean, maybe he takes it. Maybe he can get more from somewhere else. What's another option? Let's look at a guy like Danny Green. Danny Green made $10 million last year. Danny Green just won a championship. I think Danny Green may be due for a bonus, a little raise in his contract. Let's say we offered him $12 million. Let's say we gave him the whole 14.7. Or what about this name? What about Trevor Ariza? Trevor Ariza last year, because Houston Rockets couldn't pay him or chose not to pay him, right, so that they could pay Chris Paul, they let him go. He signed a one-year deal with the lottery team for $15 million. What if Ariza decides to say, I'm going to come back to the Lakers where I won my first and only championship? What if he decides he wants to come back to the Lakers and is willing to give us a hometown discount? Instead of the $15 million he made last year, what if he says, I'll sign for 14.7? What if the market isn't that high and he says, I'll sign for $10 million? These are hypothetical scenarios. Is that realistic? I think that's pretty realistic. Here's another name for you. Now, this guy isn't necessarily a shooting guard, but he's a hell of a shooter. Bojan Bogdanovic. What if we sign Bojan to $10 million, $12 million, $14.7 million? This guy here averaged 18 points, is an elite shooter. What if we put him at 6'8", roughly around 220-ish? What if we put him at that shooting guard spot and played him and Kyle Kuzma on that wing? Maybe that works. Maybe you want to go a little bit more defense. That's where guys like Ariza and, guys like Danny Green kind of come in. Maybe those are better fits. The point is the Lakers are going to have options here. Let's say they sign a guy like a Patrick Beverley for $9 million. Let's say they go ahead and use the other $14.7 million on a guy like a JJ Redick. Let's just use that for an example. Now you've got two really good shooters. You've got a great defender to guard all these elite point guards out here. You still have Kyle Kuzma, still have LeBron James, still have Anthony Davis, but you're out of cap space. Here's where these exceptions come in. When a team's out of cap space, there's a thing called the room exception. There's other exceptions like the mid-level exception, the biannual exception, but we're just going to talk about the room exception because that would be the one that's available to the Lakers. And that room exception is a $4.7 million exception. Meaning, after you've used your cap space, Once that $23.7 million is gone, you then have another $4.7 million that you can use to sign a player or two. So you can take that 4.7, you can split it up between two different guys. That's about $2.35 million per year if you want to get two, or you can just do one guy at 4.7. For this example, we're just going to say one because we need a six-man now. We've got our starting five. We've got Patrick Beverley, J.J. Redick, we've got Kyle Kuzma, LeBron, and Anthony Davis. To me, that's one of the best starting fives in the entire NBA. But now you need a six-man. Here's a name for you. What about a guy like Wayne Ellington? I think Wayne Ellington is maybe due for a little bonus, maybe a little raise. He was around $2.3 million last year. Maybe he decides to say, I'm take a bump up in salary and be able to come and compete for a championship with and live in LA, sunny California. Maybe Wayne Ellington is that sixth man that comes off the bench as a shooter because the Lakers do need shooters. Here's another name for you. What if we gave somebody like Seth Curry? What if we added somebody like Seth Curry to the game, to the bench as a sixth man? Seth Curry showed really good value. Now, maybe $4.7 million isn't enough for him. Maybe Seth Curry could be used in that example as a starting point guard if, let's say, Patrick Beverley is unavailable. Maybe instead of a J.J. Redick, maybe you go with a Seth Curry. Maybe he's due for $9 million. Maybe you have to pay him $10 million. Let's use that as an example. Let's just say Seth Curry, who made $2.8 million last year, let's say he's able to make $10 million this year. He played really well against his brother in the playoffs. Had a really good playoff series. Let's slot him in at $10 million. Well, now you still have $13.7 million left to be able to sign that shooting guard. Once again, maybe you go to Danny Green and say, hey, Danny Green, you had $10 million that you made last year. Maybe you come to a contender because if Kawhi Leonard leaves, you think Danny Green wants to stay in Toronto? They're not a contender if he leaves. Maybe Danny Green says, I'm tired of being in the cold. Maybe I'll leave and go to Southern California and I'll take a $10 million deal. Maybe that leaves the Lakers with 4.7 in that cap space to sign a sixth man. And then you use that other 4.7 at the room exception to sign the seventh man. It's a lot of options here, but the concept remains the same. Use your available cap, fill out your starting point guard spot, fill out your starting shooting guard spot. Then you work at your sixth man. You work down to your seventh man, your eighth man, and you continue on. So let's just say we use up our cap space. We fill out our starting lineup with a couple of different options. Rajon Rondo is another guy. Rajon Rondo is a guy who you could bring back as that starting point guard. Made $9 million last year. Maybe he gives us a discount. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he decides to say, I want the same $9 million. Whatever the case may be, many different guys. Darren Collison is another example. So between a Patrick Beverley, a Seth Curry, a Rajon Rondo, a Darren Collison, you've got options there. At the shooting guard spot, you've got options. You've got Trevor Ariza you could put at that wing spot. You've got a guy like a Danny Green or a Bogdanovich or a J.J. Redick. You've got guys out there who are unrestricted free agents who are going to be able to realistically fit into those salary cap slots for you. But let's say you fill that cap space up, you fill your starting lineup out, you use your room exception to be able to sign that six man. Well, now what do? You need more than six men. The Toronto Raptors just beat the Golden State Warriors because they had depth. They had quality depth. So we need to fill out the rest of those spots to at least go 8 to 9 deep. You at least want to be a minimum of 8 to 9 deep. So in case you have an injury, in case you get a suspension, whatever the case may be, that you have guys that can come off that bench that you can kind of rely on. So what do the Lakers have available to them? Vet minimum deals. That's all you would have. Once you use that cap space, once you use your exception, you now only have vet minimum deals. Those deals are typically $2-3 million deals. But you can use as many vet minimum deals as you want to fill out your roster. So that means the Lakers could get their starting lineup complete, get that six man under their books, and still have the ability to look for number 7, number 8, number 9, and possibly even number 10. So what are some options out there? Well, if you're trying to build a solid 8 to 9 man rotation and you've got your top 6 guys locked up, what about a guy like Carmelo Anthony? Carmelo Anthony said last year at the trade deadline, he was willing to come as a free agent and sign with the Los Angeles Lakers if the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis. We didn't trade for him until now. Now you've got a guy like Carmelo Anthony, you could slide in as that 7th spot, but you still need somebody else. Here's another option. What about Vince Carter? This is his farewell tour. You think Vince doesn't want a chance to win a championship in his last year? You don't think Vince would be willing to come off the bench behind LeBron James or Kyle Kuzma to be able to get a chance to win a championship for the vet minimum? Absolutely he would. Imagine you put a team of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kyle Kuzma as your top 3. You fill out your guard spots, let's just say with Patrick Beverly and a JJ Redick, or let's say a Seth Curry and a Trevor Ariza, right? Or Danny Green and a Derek Collison, whatever type of combo you want to put together. Then as a 6-man, you fill out maybe a Terrence Ross or maybe a Wayne Ellington, right? And then as a 7th and 8th and 9th man, you add a Carmelo Anthony and a Vince Carter. My point is the options are there, people. And remember, we've been working under the assumption that the Lakers will only have $23.7 million. Remember, we started this example, worst case scenario. But what happens if these rumors are not necessarily true, as sometimes they are or aren't? What if the situation is that Anthony Davis will waive his trade kicker? Now you go from 23.7 to 27.7, meaning that's an extra $4 million you could pay one of those bench players. We looked at worst case. Now let's look at best case scenario. Best case scenario, the Lakers convince and or have already agreed with the Pelicans to wait until July 30th at the earliest to make that trade official. If that happens, the Lakers will have $32.5 million available to them. With that, you can go ahead and sign a max player like Kawhi Leonard, like a Kemba Walker, a Jimmy Butler, a Kyrie Irving. The options now become plentiful. The question, though, is if you have that option, do you use it? Personally, I think all those guys are good fits. I think every single one of those 4 players would be good fits, and the Lakers would become an absolute immediate super team and would be hands down the title favorites. And it wouldn't be a question. It wouldn't be a question. Second option would be maybe a guy like Kyrie Irving. We know Kyrie and LeBron are a great fit together. Same thing for Kemba Walker, in my opinion. And the same even for Jimmy Butler. But the question is, how do you fill out your roster if you do that? Well, let's look at it. If you give somebody a max contract, all that $32.5 million is gone. You then have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kyle Kuzma, and whatever max player that you have. That's an elite 4. That is an elite 4. But basketball is a 5-man sport. So you got to put somebody else on the court with them. The only thing you would then have available to fill out that 5th spot would be that room exception at $4.7 million. Somebody would be willing to take that 4.7 to be that 5th man. But what about the bench? Well, just like Golden State saw when they had 4 stars, your bench is going to have to be filled with D-League players, vet minimum guys, undrafted guys. That's what you're going to have to work with. So what would I do? If I had the ear of Rob Pelinka, what would I tell Rob Pelinka based on best case scenario and worst case scenario? This is exactly what I would tell him. If you get your best case scenario and you get that full max slot, if Kawhi Leonard wants to come, give it to him. If Kyrie Irving wants to come, give it to him. If Kemba Walker wants to come, give it to him. Jimmy Butler is probably the one player that I would question. And the reason I would question it, and the only question I would have, is if I can almost guarantee that I've already selected and know who that point guard is going to be. If I can put Seth Curry with Butler, LeBron, Davis, Kuzma, and fill out the rest of my team with vet minimum deals, like a Brook Lopez or a JaVale McGee at the center spot, or like a guy like a Carmelo Anthony off my bench, right? Is that not a championship team? I think it is. So if you found any value in this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, tap that like button, hit that notification so that you can stay updated with the journey of a Ballaholic.